Good morning. Namaste to each of you. Thank you for joining me this morning to honor your mind and your body and your spirit. Let's just take a moment to get comfortable in a seated position, either on a cushion or a pillow or blanket. Have your back spine and back of your neck sit nice and tall, straight, opening up your chest and opening up your diaphragm and opening up your heart. Gently close your eyes and soften your thoughts. Soften your eyes. Soften your shoulders. Soften your heart. Observe your breath as it is, soft and gentle, breathing life into you with each inhale and relaxation with each exhale. Feel the grace of being present, returning to that awareness again and again. You may open your eyes now. For this morning's intention, you may think of a positive word or phrase to have with you on your mat and perhaps carry with you throughout the day. This morning's intention I'd like to talk about is the sixth limb of yoga, Dharana, which is Sanskrit for focused concentration. Our first four limbs of yoga focus on our external world, the guidelines for living, which are the yamas and niyamas, the first two limbs, our mobility, which is the third limb, the asanas, and the fourth limb being pranayama, our breath. And then the fifth limb we talked about last week, pratyahara, is the bridge that we cross from the external world towards the internal world by withdrawing from our senses and allowing them just to fade in the background. So with our sixth limb of yoga, Dharana, it starts the journey inward by developing a focused mind. It's kind of like training a puppy to sit and stay, trying to get that focus going. So there's concentration techniques to help us with obtaining a focused mind. First one is Anapanasati, which is breath awareness in your body. So it's always an easy method to go to, and because our breath is always there. And the breath is what you're focusing on, but then there's breathing techniques, the pranayamas, that you can incorporate to really kind of lock in that concentration. Another concentration technique is the Trataka, and that means gaze in Sanskrit. So with that, there's a theory of still eyes helps still the mind. So still eyes, still mind. And by guiding our eyes to rest on a specific point, we build concentration and eliminate distractions. So a lot of people, when they start to progress into their meditation, they'll focus on a particular object. A lot of people have maybe a little table set up with a candle or a flower to focus on, so that your focus just goes to that one object. That's the Trataka. And we do that in tree pose, and we'll have a fun lead up to tree pose today. And the last concentration technique is something that you often hear in yoga class. It's called a Drishti. And what it actually means is where we place our gaze outwardly influences our physical body, both in posture and alignment. So there's actually 9 Dristis, and each pose incorporates a Drishti. So when you're in a yoga class and you hear, focus on your Drishti, it's one of these 9 points. And it is a little bit different than the Trataka. So we'll go through that. So for our meditation this morning, I would suggest you find either an object to focus on, or you can close your eyes and focus inwardly on an object. Sometimes when I meditate, I close my eyes and I focus on the flame of a candle just in my mind's eye. Or you can use the Anapanasati, which is focusing on your breath, and maybe use a particular pranayama that you like. The Ujjayi breath is the ocean sound breath, or the alternate nostril breathing, using your fingers to close off the nostril, or even you can just close off one nostril. The left nostril is an energizing type nostril. So your choice. And if you like, instead including using a mudra, the Gyan mudra is a mudra for concentration. And it's that classic one where you're bringing your index finger and your thumb together and the other 3 fingers are extended. So that is Gyan, and it's means concentration. So we'll just take a few moments to meditate, and then we'll start our practice. You may open your eyes now. As I mentioned, there's Drishtis that we use throughout our yoga practice, the asana part of our yoga practice. And there are 9 of those. So they include sending your gaze straight ahead, sending your gaze to the left or to the right, sending your gaze to your third eye, sending your gaze to your tip of your nose, sending your gaze to your hands, to your fingers, to the middle of your thumb. I often do that in Anjali Mudra. And to your navel is another Drishti spot to send your focus to. And then lastly, to your feet. So as I mentioned, the Drishtis are a part of helping you to get the proper posture and alignment in your asana pose. And they each pose typically has a Drishti focus to help you with that alignment and posture. So let's just start with our basic seated pose. Sending our gaze straight out. That helps with our posture to elongate our spine and the back of our neck. And then let's send our head to the left. And then return to center and then send it over to the right. Send our gaze over to the right. And then return to center. Send our gaze to the left. And we're sending it to the left, but we're sending it straight out. Back to center. And then sending it over to the right. And then back to center. Then we're going to move our head upward to the tops of the trees, and then downward toward our feet. And back to center, then upward above the tree line, and then down to our feet. And then back to center. And then we'll make a circle with our nose. So this is one where you can actually look at the tip of your nose and draw a circle. And that is an old wives' tale that if you cross your eyes to look at your nose, your eyes will get stuck. And then reverse the direction. Looking at the tip of your nose, just draw a circle with your nose. And then back to center. We'll place our fingertips on the mat, and we're going to take a nice big inhale, sweeping our hands up above. And as we do, we can send our gaze up to the middle of our thumbs. And then back down again. Sending our gaze down to our feet. And inhale, sweep our hands up, sending our gaze up to the middle of our thumbs. And then exhale, send our fingertips back down to the mat. Sending our gaze down to our feet. One last time, sweep our hands on the inhale, up. Sending our gaze up to the middle of the thumb. And then exhale, bring our hands down, sending our gaze down to our feet. Then we're going to take our right hand, bring it to our left kneecap, twist our torso to the left, sending our gaze to the left, but straight out, and then place our left fingertips behind our hips. So this is actually not really sending our gaze to the left because our torso is twisted to the left. So it's more of a sending our gaze straight out. Take a couple deep breaths here. And then return to center. And then we'll do that on the other side. Bring your left hand to your right knee. Place your right hand behind your hips, twisting your torso to the right and sending your gaze straight out. And then come back to center. We'll send our fingertips to the sides. We'll lift our left arm up close to our ear and then send our elbow, right elbow down toward the mat. So it's for a sitting side stretch. And with this, we're also sending our gaze straight out. And then inhale, come back up. And bring our left fingertips down to the mat. Bring our right arm up toward our ears. And then bend our left elbow down toward the mat, leaning over, keeping our gaze straight ahead. And then inhale, come back up. We'll do that again on each side. So bring your right fingertips down to the mat. Left arm goes up to your ear. Bending your right elbow toward the mat. Sending your gaze straight out. And then inhale, come back up. Left fingertips on the mat. Right arm goes up. Left elbow bends, keeping your gaze straight out. And then come back up. We're going to come into tabletop. So coming up onto our hands and knees. Wrists are right below the shoulders, knees are right below the hips, navel's tucked to the spine. We're going to send our right foot down to the bottom of the mat, and then send our right foot out to the left side of the mat, so it's on the outer part of the mat. And then we're going to turn our head as if we're saying no, and turning it to the left, sending our gaze to the left. And then send our gaze back to our foot. And then bring your leg back. So in tabletop, you're actually sending your gaze down toward your hands, which is one of the Drishti points. And then we're going to send our left leg down to the bottom of the mat, and then move that to the right, so it's on the outside of the mat. And then we're going to turn our head to the right. Again, this is a Drishti, and then send our gaze back to our foot, which is another Drishti. So this helps with your proper posture and alignment for the pose. And then bring your leg back. We'll do that one more time. So send your right leg down. Move it to the left side of the mat, outside the mat. Turn your head to the left. Send your gaze to the left, and then to your foot. And then bring it back. And then we'll send the left foot down, move the left foot to the outside of the right side of the mat. Turn our head to the right, Send our gaze to our foot. So we're focusing on just certain points, certain of these, or a couple of these 9 Drishti points, to just really, again, focus on the pose and focus on it being in alignment correctly. We're going to bring our leg back. Then we'll do cat-cows. So we're going to push into our hands, have our weight equally distributed in our hands. Wrists are right below the shoulders, knees right below our hips, navel's tucked to the spine. And then we're going to round our back on the exhale, sending our gaze to our navel. We round our back, focusing on that full stretch by sending our gaze to our navel. And then lifting our head and tailbone up, sending our gaze straight ahead. That puts us into good alignment for cow. And then exhale, rounding our back, sending our gaze toward our navel. And then inhale, lifting our head, sending our gaze straight ahead. Actually helps to create that arch in our back, lifting our tailbone up. And then just keep doing the cat-cow, focusing on your breath and focusing on the Drishti points. We'll do this for a few moments. And then come back to a neutral spine. Bring your knees together so they're touching right below your hips. We're going to send our right leg up to hip height. Just check in with your hands, make sure your weight's evenly distributed in both hands on the mat. And then lift your left arm up. We're going to keep our drishti, our gaze, on our hands so that our neck is nice and long and even with our spine. And then we're going to inhale, point, exhale, flex our foot so our toes point down. Inhale, point, exhale, flex. 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 Inhale, point, exhale, flex, and bring both down. We'll do that on the other side. So our knees come together. Weight is evenly distributed in our hands, pushing down so we have that space between our shoulders and our ears. Lift the left leg up to hip height, keeping our hips parallel with the mat. And then lift our right arm up. We're going to point, inhale, flex, exhale. 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 Point, inhale, and flex, exhale, and bring everything back down. And we'll walk our hands back, tucking our toes under, and come into a squat. Then push down and lift up to mountain pose. So the mountain pose, we're going to bring our big toes so that they're pointing toward the straight edge of the mat. Legs are nice. Oh, I'm going to actually lift my toes up. So I'm going to lift up the toes and spread the toes as far apart as you can. And then bring the toes back down to the mat, lifting your heels up off the mat. And bring those back down. Now our legs are nice and straight. Soft, gentle bend in your knees, navel's tucked to the spine. Shoulders are relaxed and rolled back. Chin is ever so light, slightly tucked toward your chest. Crown of your head's reaching up to the sky. Then take a nice big inhale, sweeping our hands all the way up. Send your gaze up to the middle of the thumb. And exhale, bringing our hands all the way down to the mat, bending our knees as we go to support our lower back. And focusing on our hands. And just check in with your body for a moment. See how it's feeling today. Send some nourishing breaths to any tension you may feel. And then inhale, lifting your hands up to your shins, flattening out your back so your spine and the back of your neck is nice and straight and long. And with that, your gaze is going straight down. And then dropping your head, the crown of your head down toward the mat. Now here, I would think my drishti would be my knees, sending my gaze to my knees, but actually, if I could send it up to my navel, that is probably the intended drishti. And then sweep your hands all the way up overhead. We'll come up onto our tippy toes and just kind of wave our hands for palm tree here. And with this, we're sending our gaze straight ahead, so that's drishti. But if you need a little bit of help with your balance, you'll want to focus on one point that's a steady point or move. And that's actually the Trataka. So that one object that you're focused on. And then we'll send our heels back down, arms come down, hands go all the way down to the mat, bending our knees as we go. Inhale, come up, halfway, flattening out our back, sending our gaze down. Exhale, sending the crown of your head down, gazing up toward your navel. And sweeping our hands all the way up overhead, sending our gaze up to our thumbs. And then we're going to lower our hands to our shoulder height. And we'll do the 180s. And we're going to focus on a hand. So we're going to take the right hand, keep our gaze on that, and then make a 180-degree circle with our right hand all the way to the back. Sending our left hand to our right shoulder. And then bring our right hand back, that semicircle, keeping our gaze on that the entire time. And then we'll do that with the left finger. So just follow our left fingers out in that semicircle, bringing the right hand to the left shoulder. And you see how it aligns your body in this twist. Not much effort. You're focusing on following your fingers and your body automatically goes into a perfect twist position. So bring the fingers back. We'll do that again on each side. So follow your right fingertips all the way to the back. And then bring them back to the front. And then we'll follow the left fingertips in that arch all the way to the back, bringing our right hand to our left shoulder. And then all the way back again. Then sweep our hands up overhead, And then bring them down to the mat, bending our knees as we go. We'll come up halfway, half forward fold, straightening out our back, sending the gaze down. And then exhale, sending the crown of our head down. And then sweeping our hands all the way up overhead. Palms come together, sending our gaze up to our thumbs. And then we're going to bring our palms to heart center. Gazing at our fingertips. So the next thing we're going to do is lift your right leg up just at a 90-degree angle. Keeping your hands in Anjali Mudra. And what I'd like you to do is just kind of look around, but move your head around the room. Just look at the ceiling, look at the walls, look at and that is exactly what, and I didn't do that on purpose. So just look all over the place, move your head around, look at the floor, look at the ceiling, look at the walls. Feel how unstable you are when you're moving your head all around. And then put your foot back down and then lift it up again, staring straight ahead. So that's your Drishti, and then focusing on a still spot. That's your Trataka. And see how much more stable you are than if your head's moving all over the place. That's focused concentration. And so we're going to take that foot and then extend it in back, coming into a lunge. And then bring it back to center. So let's do that with the left side. So with your right foot planted on the mat, just lift your left leg up so it's at a 90-degree angle. And again, just try and look around. Ceiling, to the walls, to the floor. Just move your head all around. And see how unstable that is. So then put your foot back down and then lift your foot back up. Send your gaze straight ahead. That's the Drishti. Lock into something that's a point in the room that's stable, not moving, and that's the Trataka. And then we'll take this foot in the air, keep it in the air, send it in back of us, and plant it down in back of us, coming in a lunge with the walls there. And then bring it back to center. Great. So sweep our hands all the way up overhead again. Big inhale, big exhale, bring them down to the mat, bending our knees as we go. Inhale, come half forward fold with our gaze being sent down. And then exhale, crown of our head reaches down toward the mat. Our gaze goes up toward our navel. And then sweep our hands all the way up overhead, sending our gaze up to the middle of our thumbs, bringing our palms together at heart center, and then our palms to the back of our hips. Our feet are about hip width apart, shoulders are relaxed, chin is tucked toward your chest. And here's a great one where you can use the tip of your nose for your Drishti. Just kind of focus on the tip of your nose and then relax your shoulders and lean back, keeping your chest, your chin tucked toward your chest. And then come back up. How's everyone doing? Great. We're going to sweep our hands up overhead, Sending our gaze up to the middle of our thumb, bringing your hands down, planting both hands on the mat. We're going to send our right foot down to the back of the mat, coming into a lunge position. Our knee is right over our ankle. The heel of our right foot is pushing to the back of the mat. Our right hand is placed on the mat, and we're going to sweep our left hand and follow with our eyes all the way up to the ceiling. And then bring that hand, left hand back down to the mat. We'll send our left foot back to come together with our right foot, and then we're going to come into plank pose. With both our wrist and our shoulder are in alignment. We focus our eyes on our fingers. Navel's tucked to your spine, elevating your hips slightly. And then you can either use knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga, keeping your elbows tucked toward your ribs. Come down to the mat. And then keeping our fingertips where they are, we're going to lift our head, send our gaze straight out. So our chin is lifting up, our chest is lifting up, and then gently pushing our hands, coming up into cobra. And then keep pushing, coming up to tabletop, and then bringing our hips down to our ankles, coming into child's pose, and placing that third eye on the mat. And then we'll come back up to tabletop, tuck our toes under, come up to downward dog, and we'll pedal out here for a moment. Just check your hands. Your fingers should be splayed apart, an index finger pointing to the top of the mat. Arms are nice and straight and strong. Chest is reaching toward thighs. Knees are bent, or you could be pedaling. Your feet are right there. So you would think your drishti on a downward dog would be your feet. So you're looking straight at my feet right now, but it's actually your navel. So if you try to send your gaze to your navel, you'll see how your head kind of stretches more toward your thighs. You get into a little bit more proper alignment for downward dog. But as we always do, you do you for your downward dogs and all the poses. Listen to your inner voice, since we're going inward in these last few limbs. Let your intuition tell you what's right for you, for your body, and for today. So we'll walk our feet up to our hands, come into a forward fold, and then sweep our hands all the way up overhead. Palms come together, palms come to heart center. And we'll do that classic yoga pose, asana, that is always talked about with Drishti. So it's the tree pose. So you can use your choice of having your toe, and I'm starting with my right foot, toe on the mat, heel on your left ankle, or you can move your right foot up, so the sole of your right foot's on your inner calf, or you can move it all the way up to the thigh. And this is where sending your gaze straight out, that's the drishti, and locking in a trataka, a spot that's not moving, is really key to this pose. And it helps with alignment. Navel's tucked to the spine, helps. Shoulders relaxed and rolled back so your spine is nice and straight and tall. And then we're going to pivot our right knee so it goes to the front. And then it's still lifted. We're going to send it to the back and come into warrior two pose. So our left knee is over our left ankle. Right foot is reaching to the back of the mat. You can scooch a little into it. I like to get a little bit more stretch this morning. And then with your chest open to the long side of your mat, you're going to lift your arms up to shoulder height and send your gaze to your left fingertips. So with that, sending your gaze to your left fingertips, they should be straight out in front of your gaze so that you feel that your chest is over your hips, your head's over your chest, this nice straight alignment. And then we're going to lift our left fingertips up to the sky as we drop our right fingertips down to our thigh. Keeping our gaze on our left fingertips for reverse warrior. And then bringing our left forearm down to our left thigh. Sending our right hand up, coming into extended side angle. And send our gaze up to our fingertips, our right fingertips. And with this, sending our gaze up, it opens up our chest, which is an important part of this pose. And I'm going to send our right hand down to the mat. Come back into runner's lunge. And then we're going to bring our right foot up to meet our left foot, coming into forward fold. And then sweep our hands all the way up overhead, sending our gaze up to our thumb. And then palms come to center of your heart. We'll do that again. We'll do it on the other side. So sweeping our hands overhead, palms come together, gaze goes up to the middle of the thumb. Exhale, bringing our hands down, all the way to the mat. Firmly planting in the mat, sending our left foot back to the back of the mat. Placing our left hand down. We're going to sweep our right hand all the way up to the sky, sending our gaze along with it. And then bring that right hand back down. Placing it on the mat, bringing our right foot back to meet the left foot, coming into plank pose. And then knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga down to the mat, keeping our elbows tucked to our side. And then lifting our head, sending our gaze forward. Our chin and our chest is up off the mat. All we need to do is just gently push up when we come into cobra. And then lift up into tabletop, and then send our knees, our hips down, rather, to our ankles, bringing our third eye right above our nose to the mat. And then coming back up to tabletop, tuck our toes under, lifting up to downward dog. Again, Fingers are splayed apart. Index finger reaching toward pointing toward the top of the mat. And remember, our gaze is not on our feet, but on our navel. So once we shift that gaze, we can feel a lot more stretch going on. Our hips extend further up to the sky. And then we'll walk our feet up to our hands. Come into a forward fold. And sweep our hands all the way up overhead. Send our gaze up to the middle of our thumb. Palms come together, palms come to heart center. And we'll do tree pose on the other side. So I'm planting my right foot down and my left toes are on the mat. Left heel is on my right ankle. That's one variation. We send our gaze straight out. And just feel the alignment and the posture kick in. And then you'd send the sole of your left foot up to the inner part of your right calf. Keeping that drishti of looking straight ahead and the trataka of finding a still object. Focus on that focused concentration. Dharana is that Sanskrit word for it. And then bring your left leg up to the thigh. And then we're going to pivot our left knee to the front of the mat, taking our foot off our thigh, and then we're going to send that left foot all the way back, coming into warrior two. So I'm going to scooch a little further. My right knee is over my right ankle, left foot is nice and snug in the mat. My chest is reaching toward the long edge of the mat. I'm going to sweep my arms up to shoulder height and then gently turn my head to look at my right fingertips. And then we're going to take our right hand, reaching it up toward the sky, dropping our left hand down toward thigh, keeping our gaze on our right fingertips for reverse warrior. Nice and slow and controlled. Bring your right hand down and send your right forearm to your right thigh, sweeping your left hand up to the sky and sending your gaze up to your left fingertips. And then bring your left hand all the way down to the mat. Coming back into runner's lunge. Both hands are on the mat, and we're going to bring our left foot up to meet the right foot coming into forward fold. Then sweeping our hands all the way up overhead. Sending our gaze up to our middle thumbs. Palms come together, then palms come to heart center. We'll bring our pinky toes to the edges of the mat, tucking our heels in toward the center so our feet are at a 45-degree angle. We're gonna lower our hips bending our knees, coming down into a wide-legged squat, bringing our torso between our legs, resting our elbows on the inner part of our knees, and keeping our focus on our hands. We're going to bring our hands down toward the mat. And you can feel that little bit of extra stretch that your elbows are providing against your knees. And then we'll bring our seat on down to the mat. And we'll slowly roll down, your choice. Legs bent, legs straight, or express roll down. I actually do legs straight this morning. And slowly with control, lower down to the mat, one vertebrae at a time. And then I'm going to bring my knees to the chest, give them a nice hug, rock back and forth. And then relax my legs all the way out, coming into a reclined mountain pose. So this is still an active pose. We're not to Shavasana yet. I'd like to go through this focused concentration series that a fellow named Dave Swenson did. And it really will help you with getting that idea of focusing on parts of your body and really concentrating on them. But as I was doing it yesterday in my workup of the class, I was like, for us right now, this is a really great metaphor because there's so much we want to control right now, and we can control that, but when we relax and let go and just release, it feels so much better. So just kind of keep that in mind with your day-to-day things, that you're working hard and concentrating on controlling something, but if you just relax and let go, it feels so much better. So let's go back to this series here. So we're in mountain pose, reclined mountain pose. Our feet are flexed, our toes pointing up to the sky. Our shoulders are nice and snug in the mat. Our gaze is set straight up to the sky. And we're going to lift our right leg and have it hover a little bit over the mat, say about 3 to 4 inches. And then what we're going to do is squinch our toes so that we're making a fist with our toes. And then you're going to feel that concentration of effort, making a fist with your toes, and then make your ankle tense, then bring that tension up to your knee, and then bring that tension all the way up to your hips so that your whole leg is engaged actively with tension. And then you're going to hold, 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 and then you're going to release from your hip and really focus on trying just to release the hip, then just to release the tension from the knee, the tension from the ankle. Unfurl your toes and let your foot float back down and relax. Doesn't that relaxation feel even better after all that tension? So we'll do that with the left foot. Lift it up so it's hovering about 3 to 4 inches. And then you're going to scrunch your toes like you're making a fist with your toes. And then feel that tension. Concentrate on bringing that flex to your ankle, then up to your knee, then up to your hip. Hold, 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 and then release, starting with your hip. And then try to release just your knee, then the ankle, then unfurl your toes and let your foot float back down to the mat. Again, just savor that nice feeling of release and letting go. Okay, then we're going to come to our lower back, our midriff area. So we're going to make that bowl with our tummy where we, bring our navel toward our spine, curling, concaving our tummy so it's like a bowl, and just really tense our glutes or our butt muscles. Really just hold, and then release your glutes, release your hips, and just let your tummy kind of float back up from the bowl. Nice. We'll do that with our arms. So like our legs, we're going to just lift our arm up off the mat about 3-4 inches. And then make a fist by bringing in your pinky, then your ring finger, middle finger, and index finger, and then putting your thumb over the top of that. So now you have a strong fist, and then just feel that tension in your wrist, sending it, concentrating on focusing on that tension in your elbow, and then all the way up to your shoulder. Hold, and then isolating that, release it from your shoulder, release it from your elbow, release it from your wrist, lift your thumb and unfurl your fingers one at a time, and let your hand float back down to the mat. And we'll lift the left hand up. We'll do that. Curl your pinky, ring finger, middle finger, index finger, putting the thumb on top. Making a strong fist, feeling that tension in your fist, in your hands rather, then your wrist, then your elbow, and your shoulder. Hold, and then releasing it from your shoulder, your elbow, your wrist, and then lifting your thumb and unfurling your index, middle, ring, pinky finger. Let it float back down. And then we're going to work on our face. We're going to scrunch up our face as if we've just bitten into a bitter, bitter lemon. So really close your eyes, shut your eyes tight. Make that puckered face like, oh my gosh, that was so bitter. Hold, and then open your eyes like you had a huge surprise, and then relax. And then we'll take a deep breath and focus on bringing that breath from your toes through your ankles, up to your knees, up to your thighs, your waist. Start to include your fingers and your arms in that breath. Sending the breath all the way up to your shoulders and your chest. All the way up to your mouth, and then exhale with a big sigh. We'll do that one more time. So bringing that breath from your tips of your toes, through your ankles, knees, thighs, hips and hands, up your arms and ribs, to your shoulders and chest, to your mouth and then big exhale. And relax. So this gets you all set for Shavasana. You can get into your favorite Shavasana pose, heels to the corners, palms up, and just relax. Today's poem I have for you is The Summer Day by Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and she floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?